All right, ladies, here we are, okay? The highly anticipated talk that all of you ladies was asking me about. When is it happening? Is it real? Will they show up? Will they talk? Is it going to be something that we'll be able to take away, get our husbands to listen to? And the answers is yes. I have the brothers here, and we are going to talk about a lot of things. We're going to talk about healing. We're going to talk about trauma. We're going to talk about vulnerability. We're going to talk about police brutality. We're going to talk about love and what is love and what is self-love. And all the men that I have on the platform tonight, I want you to share this. I want you to tell your girlfriend because she's trying to figure out what the husband going through, what the boo going through, how to talk, what to talk about, why she can't get through. And hopefully we'll be able to get some answers from these wonderful gentlemen that we have in front of us. And actually, I'm going to let them introduce themselves. So, Gerald, I'll start with you.
All right. My name is Gerald Thompson, one part of the Kingdom Bros. We are just a partnership of brothers who connect on a weekly basis to help folks in their healing journey. We connected ourselves on our healing journey. Brother Dave will be here in just in a minute. But we speak on every single Sunday what Black healing looks like in Black men, and what that takes in terms of us evolving on a daily basis.
Brother Reginald.
How you doing? My name is Reggie Howard. I am the senior program coordinator at Black Men Hill, which offers free therapy to men of color. We're in about 9 states, but started and based out of Philadelphia. And I was one of the first people that were in the first cohort where they put out the call of like free therapy for Black men, and went out and was sharing my story because I'm a multiple suicide attempt survivor, and wanted to, inspire others. And I said, why not go back and serve the organization that served me? So I come here today as the senior program coordinator, but just a guy looking to help others heal, and appreciate you for having me today.
Absolutely. Brother Montez.
Hey friends, how you doing? My name is Montez Aiken. I am a 20-year veteran of police department here in the Low Country of South Carolina. I've been doing that, like I said, for about 20 years. I'm currently a School Resource Officer Supervisor, so I'm actively in the schools as a SRO and as a supervisor. Before that, I was a school teacher. I taught band for 2 years, and I decided to do something else because my blood pressure went too high. So I decided to go do something else. Like, yes, being a police officer is actually a lot more relaxing than being a teacher. But I thank you for this space. Thank you for this opportunity, and I'm looking forward to the discussion and the learning. That's education is a big foundation for me and for my through all my upbringing. So I'm really excited about learning about the exchange from other brothers and sisters, and trying to figure out how we all can move forward together.
And last but not least, Brother Daquan.
Guys, what's going on? My name is Daquan White. I'm from Detroit, Michigan. Soon to be transitioning into Chicago, hopefully. I'm also just transitioning into tech. So shout out to all my tech brothers and sisters. I'm the assistant administrator of a group called the Survivor Circle, which we bring awareness and resources to men that have been sexually abused. And we hate the term victims, so we always resort to survivors because you have to be a survivor to get through what you've been through. So I'm just happy to help bring awareness and be on this platform with these other brothers.
All right, guys. So I'm just gonna jump right in because I know all of us want to get to it. Now, one of the comments that I got from a man, because I was asking just some guys some questions, because I want to be him who is looking for you guys, right? I want to be the one that is asking all those hard questions to you so that you can help or give some kind of your expert opinion of how they should start their healing process. And again, like I said before we got on, we understand and know that you don't speak for all Black men. You don't speak for all victims. Your way is not everybody's way, but it's something about what you did that has got you to this point that you can at least reach back and help, because you guys are all doing it now, right? One comment I got from a guy, he says, "You want me to forgive a father who left me or that I never had, and then you want me to worship a father I can't see. And then you ask me," he said, "and then you ask me, what's wrong with me?" Well, the first thing that I feel is abandoned. I have a father who left, and I also have this father that they say I should worship that I cannot see, where I got all these responsibilities. So me being a man, I'm trying to figure that out on my own. So my question to you guys is, when you hear that, what goes through your mind? What is it that you hear?
Do
Oh,
we want to
man.
introduce the brother David before we get into the
Hey,
topic?
David. Yes. David,
Hey,
introduce
what's going
yourself
on,
really
man?
quick.
Can't hear him.
Oh, we can't hear you, David.
Can't hear you.
There you go. He's connected to the
We good?
Okay. Yeah, you good now?
All right, hold on. Let me try to.
We can hear you. I don't know if he can hear us.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, great. Yeah, just my headphones. So my apologies. Just a little technical difficulties, but great to see everyone. Sister Gloria, it's a pleasure as always. Appreciate
Yes.
you having this forum for us and creating a space. And to all of my other great brothers on the line, it's a pleasure to meet you all. I am the second half of the Kingdom Brothers. I have my Kingdom brother, Brother G, on the chat with us as well this evening. Just super excited to have this space and for us to be able to get off what we need to get off as Black males on our pursuit to manhood. So looking forward to the conversation, fellas.
Yeah. And I'll reiterate for everybody. So the first really expression or comment that I got from a guy is, you want me to forgive a father who left me or that I never had. And then you want me to worship another father that I can't see. And so immediately what I feel is abandoned. I have to forgive someone that left me, and then you want me to worship someone I can't see. So immediately I feel like I'm out here by myself. So I got to figure it out.
I started off, and I'll speak to a piece. Brother G mentioned it earlier with we operate a support group at Blackman Hill every Sunday called King's Corner, where we discuss different topics similar to this. And one of the brothers in the space brought into a different perspective of like male relationship that I never even considered. And he was saying that some of us are afraid to admit that our first heartbreak was from our father. And I never like looked at that relationship like that, where it's like, oh, I'm heartbroken, and we got to go through that same process of healing that we would do in a heartbreak, as far as like, oh, grieving and loss of a loved one and all of those different things. So I'll add to that I am that kid that didn't have his father. I reconnected with my father once I started my healing journey, and then he left again. And this time that he left at an older age, I realized, oh, it wasn't a heartbreak because it was an even parting of ways this time. You ever get out of a relationship and you're kind of like happy you're out of that relationship because it's toxic?
Yeah.
Now we are parting ways on mutual terms as opposed to it being lopsided in a certain capacity. So it just putting everything in this perspective of like dealing with relationships and dealing with that father piece. And I know we're gonna get into the spiritual part of it, but dealing with that piece, I think when we start looking at that fatherly figure as a heartbreak as opposed to my dad not there, I think we'll start to handle those situations differently when we start to like unpack some of these different emotions that's inside of us.
You know, I totally agree. I think the acknowledgement of what he is feeling is just overwhelming. That's where it starts, right? The acknowledgement of that heartbreak that you speak of, brother, is probably the most important piece. Understanding that there's something in you, there's some resentment that you still have that you got to go through. And so I think for everybody here, as they started their own, healing journey, we had to acknowledge what was happening in us, right? We had to acknowledge it, speak about it, start to find our space where we can be, we can trust some folks and then start to walk down that road. So shout out to that brother for acknowledging. Now the next piece is now trying to find a safe space where he can sort of flesh out those things. And that might be therapy, that might be a father figure somewhere else, a friend somewhere else, but he's got to flesh those things out now and find that safe space.
And I agree. I think I can't really relate to a lot of that because I mean my dad is always been there for me, and I'm an only child, so I was the only one that I didn't have to really share, quote unquote, the love from anybody else. Like dad was there, but getting back to that heartbreak thing, I vividly remember when I was getting older, 12, 13, I started to feel myself a little bit and, started to show out a little bit more, and dad still had to, kind of rule with an iron fist. And, it wasn't an abuse situation, but he disciplined me, and he was a severe disciplinarian. But now looking back now, it hurt. I was like, wow, dad really put it, he put it on me. And it was very hurtful, but I'm thankful for that, because it put me in a space that knowing that, that I am a child, I still have to respect others. I have to respect adults. And what I found through my experiences as becoming a father myself and just dealing with the public at large, I see this so much because there's so many brown and black boys who don't have fathers. And I see that they don't have that fear. And I'm thankful my dad created that fear in me that I need to respect others, respect men, respect women. And I see that a lot, especially in the youth that I deal with every day. They don't see that, and it's kind of unfortunate. So as an adult male, for this perfect person that you're talking particularly, like he said, he feels abandoned. And I think he probably, like he said, maybe go through therapy, but also maybe be that person, be that mentor that he wasn't able to get or able to have, be that change to maybe somebody else's life. I mean, you could go mentor anywhere in the world. I mean, you could go to a school, you could go to a church, synagogue, temple, whatever you serve at, you could find a mentor and you could find a young person that needs help. So I feel that having that, being for that person to be able to maybe find what's wrong, what's kind of ailing them, but then go out and be a father figure for somebody else. And I think that might help him on that journey to not feel as abandoned, maybe feel part of something, maybe something a little bit that he missed out on.
Well, I think
So
that
I'm sorry. You can
go ahead, Daquan, go ahead.
I want to go back from what Reg and G was saying. Here's the thing is to I commend that guy for saying that, right? Because I was looking at a study recently, because we deal with mental health and also people that have been survivors of sexual abuse, right? And I know that's not everybody's situation or what they've been through. But there was a study showing that men may take 20 years plus to admit something happened to them, right? And so, I guess I'm saying that to say I commend the men for saying that, because the community amongst men and women, they always say men are not emotionally there. or we don't show emotions. We don't know how to show up. That we're not opening up to each other, and people don't know exactly how to approach us and talk to us. Here's the thing is too, I agree to what Montez was saying, but I also want to say this. It's hard to be something that you weren't taught to be
Come
or
on,
to be.
that's exactly what I was going to say.
So even with, and I know we haven't got there yet, even when it comes down to forgiving, right? Because he's in a place where he's angry, which is okay. Where he's sad, possibly could be depressed. Sounds like he's trying to find himself, find community. So I commend him for even speaking up that he was hurt. That's the biggest thing, right? Because he could have kept that to himself. A lot of us are dying this silent battle of depression and anxiety. So the biggest thing I would say for him is I appreciate you, and also let him know that he's loved without conditions. Not have to perform for anybody, but just say he's loved, because most men want to reach out. Most men want to do right, or try to take that next step, or be open, but they don't feel like they're loved and no one's listening. So the biggest thing is, I would say, going back to what G was saying, is therapy and community. Therapy and community, finding someone that you can relate to. There's so many brothers out there dealing with battles, mental battles, depression, certain things that they're dealing with. And a lot of them are trying to overcome what they're going through. So hopefully he can find that to begin his journey to wholeness, to become the man he's supposed to be, because you can't be what you don't know, right? So that's all I want to say.
Mhm. And I would say I opened up with that because this was a guy who had to look outside of himself and his family to see what a father figure looks like, right? So now all he has is his environment. The dad who left, now we got this whole thing of PTSD. Then we have trauma. That's where it comes, right? Where it starts. Now he feels like he has to be a man because his father wasn't the man, because he either wasn't there, or he now feels he has to step up because mom is doing what she can. And she's constantly saying, I'm doing the best that I can. I'm trying to make this work. I'm trying to keep the family together. And as a man, you hearing it and you're saying, well, what can I do? So does he have time to go to therapy? No. Does he have time to go ahead and sit with his thoughts? No. What he's thinking of is, my mama's here, my brothers and sisters is here, my daddy left, I'm angry, and now here I gotta go, and this person is now 26, but he's been going through this since he was 15 years old, right? So now he has a whole bunch of stuff that he's trying to work out in his healing process. And he had some traumas in his life where he was attacked. And Daquan, that's why I wanted you to at least share a little bit of your story, and everybody, when it comes to trauma, because we don't really understand and know how it affects you personally. I'll give you guys a good example. And Gerald, you notice, and David, you probably notice, in New York, you live in the projects, you go outside and you play, right? It could be a shootout. You run in the building, you talk about it, you go upstairs, but then you run back outside and play, right? It ain't anything traumatic to you. That's called real life, right? You know who did it. You know their sister. You know where they live. You know everything. And when you grow up that way, it doesn't affect you like that. But then something happens later because you understand, and well, you don't understand why you're not emotionally available. You trying to figure out why you can watch so much crime shows and you can watch other people beat up other people. Well, you've been looking at it your whole life. You see what I'm saying? You've been looking at it your whole life. And you're saying, you're trying to figure out why can't you have a good relationship? Well, you can't have a good relationship because you're desensitized to that, but you don't know that, right? So my other question to you guys is if you could share just a little bit of your story. And I know Montez, I know you're here for another purpose, which we're going to get to. If you do have one, if you are okay with sharing, then that's fine. But my question for you guys is, how did you get here? Because there's a lot of men who is just trying to get to where you are. How did you get here?
So I'll just, oh no, G, I saw you, man. I saw you
No,
on
no.
mute. You go ahead.
I was gonna pass it to Brother Dave, get him in here.
Yeah.
Appreciate that, Brother G. Oh, whoa, great question, Sister Gloria. I'm going to unpack. I'm definitely going to unpack. So, how did I get here? Anger challenges, self-esteem challenges, and it started from young, right? But you don't know these things when you're younger. You're just going through life, just the day to day, but you don't understand that you have, self-esteem challenges, confidence challenges. You just matriculate, through life. And when you start to encounter different situations in life, you don't know how to handle them. I want to say about 2015, my wife just was, before she became my wife, she says, listen, you're going to get ready to tear this family up. You have anger challenges that, like, I can't help you with. I have my own stuff that I have to unpack. You want me to unpack yours? I can't do it. So I Googled therapist. I ended up finding me a psychologist, and I've been in therapy ever since 2015, on and off, and it's changed my life. But what's really, really changed my life is I decided to take the horns, on my own, with my own responsibility of personal self-development and self-love. So outside of therapy, I noticed that I still really wasn't healing because I wasn't doing the work on my own. I was just allowing a therapist to kind of give me the tools for the 45 minutes, an hour or so, and then I would go home and then have an argument with my wife, still treat my children a certain type of way, and not in an abusive way, but in a way where, the silent treatment, a lot of just things that I was going through and growing through on my own, I didn't have those tools. And then my mother passed away in 2017 unexpectedly. And to be able to have to go identify her on her living room floor when she was supposed to come that night for dinner, that was tough, man. I'm still dealing with that. But I realized that in order for me to really tap into my truest potential, like, I had to free myself up. And I started by finding community, by finding out who David is. I'm still learning who I am at 38 years young. It took me a long time.
And David, did you find out where was the anger coming from? Was it something from when you were younger? Was it just that you were still trying to figure out life?
Definitely. So there was a season when my mother was on substance, but even before that, my parents, they were together up until I was 12 years old. From the age of 3 years old to 12, my parents were together. And once they divorced, my mom had a challenging time. She put everything into my father, and when my father left, she kind of left as well. So, the bills, it was a challenge to eat at times. It was a challenge to just even give me the necessities. And I grew angry, not just with my mom, but with my dad as well. But me seeing my mother go through what she was going through on a day-to-day basis, I had to come from school and see it on her face and see the anguish. That really put me in an emotional bond like no other. Because remember, you young, you in junior high school, high school, and you just want to, you do want to fit in, and that was my challenge. Now I don't want to fit in. I want to stand out. I want to step in the gap for others. But at that time, you think most of us growing up in inner city, we want to go along with the get along. That's what we want to do. We don't want to be ostracized. So we want to do like every other middle school or teenager is doing in terms of just, with the clothes and the materialism. My mother couldn't get it. So I grew angry. My aunt had to feed me at times. My other aunt had to, stock our refrigerator. And I got mad, and it stood with me in my 20s because it kept me stagnant in a position at my job for 12
Mm-hmm.
years, based off of the unresolved challenges.
And I think and thank you for sharing, because it's so closely related to this guy, like I was saying, because we always trying to figure out as women, where is it coming from? Because the first thing that we do is we blame ourselves. We say, he's mad because he doesn't like something with me. Does that make sense? So your wife is trying to figure out, how can I get to you? How can I get through to you? Like, what is it that I can do? Because I love this man, but he's not talking. He's not doing this. And I believe I'm doing everything. So if everything is not working, then it must be me. And then when I realize it ain't me, and then it's you, then that's when I got to be able to, step up. So I want to hold that, because that is how, that's how a lot of Black relationships get broken, because we got to learn how to communicate just a little bit more, a little bit more. So, Mr. Reggie, you want to go next? How did you get here?
Oh wow. Thank you for all the brothers that's trusting us in this space to like share the stories, because I know it's not easy even having that, these type of conversations. So I appreciate, like, even like, I don't know y'all before today, but I feel a little bit closer now, learning about hearing the individual paths and stories. So for me, my journey, what I now know started in 2011 when I first found out I was having my son. I got two sons. So 10 years ago, well, it was in 2011. So, but every time I go to the story, it starts to like jumble everything up, because it's so many different winding paths that I'm starting to get information for. But when I found out I was having my oldest son, again, I'm a child of a dad that wasn't there, that abandoned my mom. He was abusive and all of those different things. And so once I found out that I was having my son, I became, it was a pressure of like, all right, I don't want to do what my dad did, because I'm not set up to be a father. Like, I don't have any financial money saved. I don't have any, vehicle to help with like doctor's appointments. I don't have a house. I'm living with my mom. What do I do? And so, and I didn't want to be a deadbeat, because I already know how that feels. So that ended up letting me text a couple of my friends, and I found myself on a bridge like, hey, take care of my son. I don't want to be here anymore. And I always tell people that with suicide, it's not that you just want the pain in your head to stop and that pressure to be alleviated. And you feel like the only way to get it, that pressure and pain alleviated, is to like, just check out. And so fortunately, one of the few of the people that a few of my brothers that came and found me on the bridge, they got that text, they came and got me. But that still didn't fix any of those problems. I didn't get a job the next day. I didn't have any money all of a sudden. Like, I had the same exact problems. And so what I now know as my second suicide attempt, I just found a bunch of pills in the medicine cabinet. It was like, I hope I don't wake up in the morning. And fortunately, again, and that's how I know I'm here for a reason, because God, it sent me some angels. I wake up to my godmom banging on the door, because she was one of those people that got the text message that night. At least I check. We talk about community, how important the community is, and community saved me that night. And she took me to her house, and what I now know, and I didn't have the language then, I was on suicide watch, basically, like, hey, like, he's just not feeling good, this pressure is getting to him, and we need to find ways to, support him. But they didn't, you can't expect help from people that don't have the tools and the resource, or know of the tool. I don't want to say have, they don't know where the right direction to provide you with the tools and resources. But that's when I started my journey, of like looking things up and doing my research and doing that self work and learning something called mental health, and figuring these things out, and then learning about an organization called Black Men Hill that was providing free therapy. And then it inspired me to even roll back in school and learn more about this and get those therapeutic terms, and just start learning and educate, because it was, when you look and Googled it now, it's better now than it was then. But when you Googled mental health, it didn't look like anybody that I've known. And then it was a white soccer mom thing, for lack of a better term. And even now with me doing my research and going into like the history of like my family history, and I know why them doctors ask for your family history. I am genetically, I'm trying to say this right, bear with me. I'm not in school. I'm in school, but I don't know none of those terms. I'm still learning.
That's okay.
I am genetically predisposed to certain mental health traits because of my father's lineage. My grandmother told my mom before having me, was like, don't have any more of those demon children. And she said that because she dealt with my father's father and dealt with my father as a child growing up and so on and so forth. And she's a pastor, by the way. So it just was a family affair of like not getting the proper support, of like help and support when it came to dealing with mental health issues. I'll end it off with this. At one point, because of the severity and didn't know of how much I needed it, I had a mental health team of a psychiatrist, a couples counselor, and individual therapist, just because, and I was medicated at one point just because it was so many different things. Fortunately, I'm off of the medicine and I found alternative ways to deal with things, but I needed to get that support and get that language and get that help that I didn't know that I needed because the stigma that's related to mental health. So that's how I came here today. I'm happy to be here today, because I know there's still some work to do that all these gentlemen on this call are doing, that we got it changed a little bit, but we got family history to change before we can really get this conversation going.
And what
That's
I
how
want to say is that you had Brother David that said, I was angry. You said, I had so much pressure. I was about to be a father. But what I'm hearing is still the same thing. I have to be able to do and have this job that I really didn't ask for. And now I got to feel like how I'm gonna navigate this. So the way that I'm gonna do that is I'm gonna be angry. And the way that I'm gonna do that is I'm gonna take myself out. Not because those are the choices that you made, but those are the things that you feel like is the best way that you can be okay for you to cope. And that's one of the things I want to point out as we go along, is that the decisions that we make are not decisions that are coming from a place where we are being more self-aware. They coming from that last resort, from what we see, right? I can't be a man enough to be here for my kid. They'll be better off without me. I'm angry because of everything that, my mom is going through, and I don't like it. But if I do something about it, then I'm gonna feel guilty because she's going through a lot. You see what I'm saying? So I can't really express myself like that because I gotta be there for her too, right? That's a lot of pressure. And to be a man, it's expected that you guys step up. It's expected that you guys handle the pressure. And that's the thing that we have to change. We got to understand that you guys have feelings too. You got to be vulnerable, and you got to have that space. So Daquan, I'll give you the floor.
I was just thrown back because man, you even though I'm emotional right now, and I'm an emotional person. Well,
Are you okay?
I'm okay.
It's all right. It's like I said, it's gonna be hard. And it's gonna be hard only because you men are, and you're gonna make me emotional. You men are doing the ultimate thing. You gotta understand the amount of work you guys are doing, right? And I hope that's not a lot of pressure for you, but you guys just being here is the best thing for our community, because we need you guys. And being open and vulnerable enough, even if they don't watch it now, they watch it later, you're going to save a lot of brothers tonight. You're going to save a lot of brothers tonight. And you know how I know that? Because I got my women behind me. And Once we women believe in something, we're going to change up the whole household, and we're going to
Very
make
true.
sure
Yeah, oh, yeah.
we're going to make sure the information gets out, right? So I applaud that. And like I said, this is your space. And the reason why I wanted to have this conversation is because that brother is listening. He might not be on this page because he see a lot of women, but I promise you, he's going to listen later. So whatever it is that you want to share, you can, and this is your space.
You know why I'm usually not lost for words, I promise. The reason why I'm so emotional right now, and I never apologize for it, because um I don't want men to ever feel like being vulnerable is wrong. Being vulnerable, it's okay to
Then
show
don't.
your emotions. Like,
Then
we have
don't.
emotions.
Then don't apologize.
Um, my heart hurts because I wasn't always doing this. I relate a lot to Reg, what he was saying. I went through a lot of those things, even though I don't have children. I understand the pressures, and I'm sure all the men that's on this platform understand the pressure of having to perform, having to show up, even when you can't show up for yourself, and how important it is to have the language to express how you feel. And most men don't have that. They don't know how to express, and that's why we can all relate to that one emotion of being angry, and sometimes being rebellious and suicidal ideations, which I've been through as well, because we don't know how to express any other emotion. We weren't shown that sometimes, or I'll relate to this to say, when people say they're a product of their environment, I was that. And that's why I was so emotional, or I couldn't show my emotions. Nothing came out except anger. I couldn't express myself in any other emotion besides being angry, because I was only shown that. My family didn't show their emotions. Only time I saw someone showing their emotions was when we were fighting or a funeral, um, you know, and my heart hurts because for that man that's watching and other men that's watching that feel the same way, um, they don't want to give up. I mean, here's the thing is they don't want to speak. I'll speak on I know it's kind of, I know it's going to kind of get kind of dark for a lot of people, but concerning suicide, um, I relate to Reg a lot because I've been through that. And a lot of times you don't want to, I'm sorry, my words are so
It's
I'm
okay.
so
Do you need a little bit of time? Do you need me to give you
no,
a little?
I no, it's okay. A lot of times you don't want to resort to that, but you're so hurt, and you're not knowing what other door or other option it is to go through, you know. So my heart hurts because I'm at a place where I'm still healing. I don't feel like none of us truly arrived. My brother Robert always says healing is a journey and wholeness is the destination, right? So a reason why I'm so emotional right now, and my words is twisting, because like I can feel that. I can feel that, just wanting somebody to hear you. One is, you don't want to give up. You really want to keep trying, but everywhere you turn and every time you take another step, it seems like you're going back. And you're trying to show up for yourself, but you got to show up for other people. And and I can, and then I have a community. I have a community, fortunately, and I know these other brothers do too. So community is so important to have, but a lot of us don't have that. A lot of times, even when getting to our initiative that we have, the Survivor Circle, bring awareness to men and mental health, and also dealing with men that have been sexually abused. We saw a lot of platforms and a lot of different initiatives and different platforms and nonprofits for women, for young children, for the elderly, but we didn't see any for men. And so that broke my heart to see, and I'm grateful to see it now. And I don't want to keep rambling, but it's like we don't have that. So a lot of times people are saying get help, and me personally being in those shoes when I was hurt, I was like, how do I get help? How do I get help when I'm hurting? And then being a man of faith, being a man of God, I feel that when he says to believe or just have faith in a man you can't see, you're like, I'm trusting this man to guide me. And that's the thing is why I love what G said. It's like that heartbreak. I think that was G that said that, right? Was that I can't remember it was G or it's David, but someone spoke of having that
It was Reginald.
It was okay. It was Reggie. Appreciate that. A heartbreak from a man. So you're trusting a man to guide you, this being, this father, as we call him, to guide you and to lead you. But the first man that you saw, that you witnessed a part of your life, broke your heart. You know, so it's like a lot of times, even when it comes to authority and being guided, it's kind of hard to do that when we didn't have the right examples. So that's why I feel that way. My heart just breaks for the man, but also I wonder. That's why I always start off when we have our initiatives and our events to tell these men that they're loved. To help them to get them to understand that they're loved and they can push, and they can get through it. Because when a man feel that he's loved and he's heard, that'll really cause him to want to get help. So I'm sorry for the rant.
That was necessary, brother.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead, Gerald.
That I'll be brief and say that, I was born to an empowering mother who was left by a coward of a father. And I still remember to the day he left, and how that resonates. So you were absolutely correct, Brother Daquan and Reggie and Brother Dave. That first heartbreak was my father. And so in terms of my journey, about 4 years ago, I made the most difficult decision ever. And that was to leave a marriage and a relationship that was no longer benefiting me, no longer serving me, and no longer helping me to be a better person. It was, and still to this day, the most difficult thing I've ever done in my life, because I wanted to be the total inverse of what I saw growing up, right? And Brother Dave, I slept on the couch for 6 months because I didn't want to leave. It was that difficult for me, but I made the decision and I left. And I remember just before 2020 rang in, I was on the phone with my sister, who was born to my dad who left.
Mm-hmm.
And she was telling me about her trauma with, her children's father. And I'm going back and forth with, my marriage and how that's looking as a father and how to navigate that system. And we decided to make a pact to get some help. And I swear I made all these calls, did all these emails, and one person got back to me, and she's been my therapist ever since. And it has been rewarding. But again, one thing we don't talk about is the system that has been created to siphon everything out of Black fathers. It is not talked about enough. And last year was probably the most difficult year of my life. I was in a car crash that left somebody fatally wounded. Somebody passed away, and I got broken bones from it. And I fell into a deep depression and anxiety. And at the same time, I had to perform and still make those payments. Though I was paying, giving money to a person that hated my guts, and was using my child in every situation that she possibly can to siphon all the energy, all the money, everything she possibly could from me. And then having the support of a court system that allows certain things to take place. And so this put me in a deep depression where my finances were drastically and dramatically affected. I couldn't figure out how to get around in certain areas. And I had certain thoughts. I had those thoughts that we talk about today, but I didn't do it. I have Brother Dave, I have so many people in my life who are there and have been supportive. But this journey, in last year, I was doing 4 days of therapy, or 4 days a month. I had to up it 6 days a month because those thoughts, that pressure was just, it was damning. It was really hurting me. And I didn't know what to do. I had to perform as a Black man, as a Black father. But the person who I was giving all my energy and time to, as a father, I'm talking about my daughter's mom, she didn't let up. She knew what I was going through, but she didn't let up. And that sent me deeper into, a funk. And, thank God, all my brothers, all my family, everybody that was there for me, who got me through that. And now the blessings are starting to come back into my life, and it's continuing down the road. But the system that has been created and still to this day is sustained in this world is so detrimental to Black fathers. It is set up to take everything we possibly have, and then on top of that, we still have to perform. And so this is why I continue my therapy. This is why we have Kingdom Bros. This is why, we are deep in mentorship and connected with one another. Because the book continues,
Brother Montez.
Oh, wow. Thank you, brothers. Man, y'all, God bless all of y'all. I mean, thank you for sharing. And, again, thank you for this space and this time. And, I probably grew up a lot different than most of y'all, if not all of y'all. Coming down here in the South, it's a little bit different. Like you said that, in the North, you have a shooting, no big deal, go inside, talk about it, come back out. Something like that here, it happens here, it's news for days. We're not really used to that, and that's not when something happens like that, it's a big deal. So, coming from my experience, as a law enforcement professional, having to see the worst of humanity. And I tell people this, I see people on their worst day. I never get a call and say, hey, why don't you just come to say hi or come have dinner with us? No, there's a reason why, most people will call the police. Usually you're in crisis. There's some type of crisis going on and that you need help. So we have to do that. I've seen from children, being abused to people dying in my arms, in my hand, taking their last breath, to unfortunately have fatal car accidents that I've been to, and I've had to investigate and those things hold on. Unfortunately, you hold on to those things. And I know from law enforcement, we do have a lot of officer suicide. That's really, really a big thing. It's a big thing. I lost a really dear friend of mine about almost 2 years ago, unfortunately, to that. And it kind of came out of the blue. It was just out of the blue, and we still kind of
That's the thing. It's never out the blue, because my brother-in-law was in law enforcement and he committed suicide. He shot himself in the head, right? And he was NYPD. And it seemed like it was out the blue, because I came home one day and I had a note on the computer to call my my sister's mother-in-law, and then that's how we found out. And the crazy thing about that, Montez, was a couple of days before, he wasn't complaining about his job, but he always felt like he wasn't enough. He always kept saying, I can't give your sister what she wants. She wants a house, and I'm trying my best. She wants this, and I'm trying my best. And he had 2 kids, like you, Gerald, was going through a battle with his ex-wife in the court system, trying to provide for his new wife, couldn't get a house because of what they were going through. And NYPD salary is not that much. So he started working at McDonald's as the security. They have the security guys and everything inside of the fast food establishments. He started working there to gain extra money to see if he can get that house. And when he couldn't deliver, that was a blow for him. And he had a substance abuse problem where in law enforcement, at least in New York, from what we know, when you had a habit, they send you away because they want to be able to let you keep your job. So that, because the battles that you have within that, and that's something we can talk about, is so hush hush, because they want to be able to feel like you're protected and we have your back and this is your community. He drops me off where I was going, That evening, he goes to a park, he does drugs, he shoots himself in the head, and then we go and we see him and we have to identify his body, all because he felt like he wasn't enough. And my sister kept telling him, I believe you're enough. Everything will be okay. But again, as a man, you guys see it differently, right? If you can't provide, then what you doing all this for, right? If you can't make stuff happen, then if you got a job and you're working and you busting your ass and you still can't do nothing, if you putting on a suit every day, Montez, and you still can't buy your wife a house, to you, that's embarrassing. And then as a Black man, you're trying to get up out of where you came from. That's why you're working so hard anyway, right? And I see the head nods, right? And so it's more of, even when you get into your jobs and everything, you still have this battle and you're trying to figure out who you can talk to. And it goes back to what all these guys are saying. My brother-in-law didn't have any help back then or anybody to talk to. His help was his job saying, hey, go away for 6 weeks, come back, we'll test you, make sure you're cool, you could keep your job. But that doesn't solve the problem, right? And so when we start to talk about police brutality, he was one of those that will go out angry, right? Not because he wanted to, but he felt like this was it. So when he had to stop somebody or somebody skipped on probation, he was already extra angry. And you know why? Because he said he had to run after them. And because when he had to run after them, he was thinking, if something happens to me and I can't be here for my family or anything like that, I'm going to kill this man. And those were the words that he said. But you see how it all trickles down, right? And you see how it all starts. That trauma is real. So those people that you see working at your job and everything, who has that anger, highly aggressive or highly, suffering from a high functional depression, is there programs for them in law enforcement? For my brother-in-law, it was like, go away and come back and hopefully you feel better, right? And that's where I want to move the conversation into now, guys. Thank you so much for you guys sharing your story, but we have this big thing called social media that is also putting pressure, right? You see the cars and the money and the people, and you're asking yourself, when am I going to get there? How am I going to work? You see the police brutality. And Montez, this is what I want to highlight you, where we saw it in 2020. We saw everything that happens. And again, I know you don't speak for all police officers, law enforcement, whatever, right? I know you don't speak for all. But to understand what that psyche is about, because we don't understand, why does it get to a point where in our minds, the police are so aggressive? What is the disconnect between the Black men and the police officer, if you can shed your light in your opinion?
That's a great question. That's a wonderful question. And just again, based off what I've
Yeah, it's your opinion. I understand.
Right is right and wrong is wrong. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm a very firm believer of following the rules, obeying the laws. If there's a situation where I've been stopped by the police before I became a law enforcement professional. And that fear is there. Okay.
Mhm.
And I do a lot of training to other younger officers, white, black, men and women, everybody. And I give them a lot of training, and I tell them, I say, look, when you stop somebody, when they see those blue lights come on, or if you're walking down the street and an officer approaches you and you, in your mind, hey, I didn't do anything wrong. Well, maybe the officer saw something that you didn't observe or you didn't witness or understand. They're going to have that fear. And I tell them, your job is to squash that fear. Your job is to give them an understanding. All right. When I do traffic stops, and I've done a gazillion of traffic stops, the first thing I do is I introduce myself. I tell them who I am, who I work for, why I stopped them. That's the biggest thing. And if you could look back in history, and it's not a long history, we don't have to go back to Rodney King or anything like that. You go back a couple of years. And I use Sandra Bland as an example as a part of my training, because I'm a big person on what we call in law enforcement tactical communication. And I think society, we brought up social media, society now demands law enforcement to have a conversation with people before you take action. If it's possible, okay? If it's possible. That's not saying that if somebody pulls a gun at you, you just kind of sit there and stand there. But if you stop somebody, tell them why I stopped you. Sir, ma'am, you were going 55 in a 25 mile per hour zone. Studies have shown that will reduce the amount of fear when you tell people this stuff, when you tell violators things. And what I've seen in Sandra Bland's case, and a lot of these cases where police are, where people are dying at the hands of police, they never explained why. They never told people why. And we're in a society now, you have to tell people why. Whether you're Black, whether you're African-American, whether you're white, Hispanic, Muslim, Christian, whatever, you have to tell people why you're stopping them and give them that reassurance that, okay, here's why Officer Aiken stopped me. It's because I was speeding. Okay, fine. That lowers that fear. And then we could go on with the traffic stop or go on with whatever encounter that we need to encounter. I feel like the disconnect still is a lot of education. I think, I'm big on education. That's my big thing. A lot of people don't have an understanding. Why do we do this? Why does the officer do this? Why does this happen? So, and I'm not saying the public needs to go and take courses and go do all this and that.
I'm gonna be honest with you. I just feel like there's not enough Black police officers in their own communities who knows the people in the community, so you can understand what that brother or sister is going through as to why they might be stopped or angry. Because and a good example is, you just have 4 men discuss some of the things that they were going through. So if Gerald was coming home and he ran a stop sign, but he just got out of court and he's already frustrated, and then this police officer doesn't understand why he is frustrated, didn't even ask him anything, but just put your hands on the dashboard. Now we got all of my aggression is gonna come to you. Right. So you have a situation where if I was in the community and I understood, okay, like you said, if I said, hey, the reason why I stopped you was this, where you coming from? I'm coming from court. Okay, I can understand, right? So go ahead.
Oh, sorry. And I try to train people to pick up on those cues. And a lot of times you have a huge, dichotomy of ages and experience and stuff like that. So what I try to give back now, because I'm considered a senior officer, what I try to give back now is that training so that we won't have these issues where we have people who are losing their lives at the hand of law enforcement, or you're in the middle of a lawsuit because you used excessive force. When you look at the whole situation, what we say in law enforcement, totality of circumstances, really wasn't that big of a deal. It was a traffic stop, okay? You know, and now next thing you know, you're in a lawsuit, you're on CNN, or you may be charged with something as a law enforcement officer because you know, a person may have lost their life because of your traffic stop. So like you said, if I stop, you know, one of my brothers up here, and you know, one of the stories that they just shared, and they're going through that, and I stop them and I say, hey, this is the reason why. But I try to tell officers to, hey, pick up on those cues, talk to people. You know, the Fourth Amendment of the Constitution gives us the ability to stop persons based on probable cause that there's a crime afoot, or maybe afoot, or is about to occur. So we have that stop there. The stop is good. You talk to them, find out what's going on. Hey, you just left court. I'm angry. I'm mad. My baby mama just took everything from me. You know, we're going through a bad divorce. I'm losing my house. I can't get a house. You know, all those things are happening, and we need to have a discussion. And it's okay to have a discussion with an officer. And I think a lot of times police officers, they don't want to hear that, you know.
Well, don't you think that police officers also have a fear of Black men?
Oh yeah, I mean,
So it's a fear on both sides.
It's a fear of, I've gotten it myself. I've gotten it myself, that, you know, like, hey, you know, I've heard, you know, it's like, oh, you're an Uncle Tom, or I'm Black, you're Black, you should be looking out for me, or, you know, I'll get, you know, things like that. But I said, hey, at the end of the day, I have a job to do, you know, and I'm here to protect and serve. And I took a sworn oath to protect and serve. But there is a fear, and I don't know where that fear is coming from. I don't know, you know, that's a great discussion. That's a whole episode in and of itself.
It's social media. It goes back to what I'm saying.
You know,
It's social media, it's the news, is what you think a Black man is. And nobody wants to say that. Is what you think a Black man is. Because when you stop that man, you already have an opinion of who he is to you, Black or white. And you're taking that first before you're doing your job. And that man in the car has an opinion of what this cop, Black or white, is. And he knows he better do everything he can to get home. Isn't that right, brothers? Anybody want to make a comment or anything?
I was really trying to shut up. I'm sorry, but we being real, right? So I had a lot of bad experience with police growing up. So I'm actually open, and I'm listening to this because my views on police and enforcement is a little different because of how I was treated in some situations I've been through. But I would say we need to humanize Black men. A lot of times we're just looking at them as being angry and bitter and, you know, thugs. And like you said, social media makes that, you know. And also we have to think about it. And we want to go back, you know, all the things that we've been through as Black men and Black women. And then they put us in these environments and these situations, and then they expect us, you know. So I just say there's anger built in us.
And I don't think it's intentional either. You know what I'm saying? I don't think it's intentional. I just think it's that collective consciousness we have about, when I see a white person, I think this. When I see a Black person, I think this. And it's on both sides. It just so happens that when it comes to law enforcement and everything, when you're taking those things in, I can lose my life. So I gotta be able to make sure that I do everything that I can to get back to my family and get home. And the officers thinking the same thing, right, Montez? It's like it's like a double-edged sword.
Absolutely.
You know?
I mean, that's the thing. Like and like you just said, we got to get home too. You know.
That's right. That's right.
We're thinking, okay, we think the worst. You know, if I see, and you know, John Q said it because I mean, you know, and this is part of training is I you know, if I stop a car, I may be behind the car just going home. I said, what if this car at a stop sign pulls out a gun and starts shooting at me and try to ambush me? What am I going to do? How am I going to react to this? You know, and but you're absolutely right. I mean, you're absolutely right. It is a double-edged sword. You know,
but what I want you guys to see is a form of PTSD on both sides. That's what we're not talking about. It's a form of PTSD on both sides. You worried about making sure you could get home to your family, and so does he. So he's going to make sure that he gets there, and so will you. So if you feel, now we got the two males going, right? If you feel it's going to be you or me, I got the gun. You understand? And so it's portrayed as, okay, here's another Black man that didn't get home from a routine stop that got escalated somehow, right? And that escalation comes, I judged you when I walked up to you, and I judged you when you walked up to me. And now what I'm looking at is I'm just trying to get home. And however we could do that, if you get aggressive with me, I'm gonna get aggressive with you. You get scared of me, I'm gonna get scared of you. I mean, and I've been stopped. I've went to jail. I was the one too, right? For me, it was a little bit different. I mean, I threw handcuffs. I slammed doors. I refused. I did everything. And the comfortability was there for me. I don't know how or why, but I just knew. And I didn't get the aggressiveness. I didn't get anything. But I know that if that was a man, he wouldn't be here. Right? Because that man thought I was a woman and he can overtake me at any time. Does that make sense? Because that's how he thought about me. I'm small. He's not intimidated. He can go ahead and rough me up if he wanted to, just to put me in the car and put those little tape things, whatever those little stringy things is.
Zip
to
tie.
yeah, the little ties, because my arms was too small for the handcuffs. I would take them off and throw them at him, and do all of that. I would do all of that, right? But anybody else, got a comment?
The view of the Black man as criminals, as animals, goes far back as slavery. And and there's some studies that says that PTSD has resonated and continued for decades, going back to slavery. As we talk about the view and the depiction of Black men, if you think about Birth of a Nation, right, where you have a white man dressed in blackface, and he's, it looks like he's trying to rape somebody, and he's an animal, he's a gorilla. That video, that movie, was something that was stuck in so many heads, so many white people's heads. And that, it continues on, and it's still, they have PTSD as well. Right? We have PTSD as being the victims of so many things, of slavery, but they also have PTSD as well from watching things like that, where, the Black man is the criminal, and, he's the animal, and he's the rapist, and these things of that nature. So, it's difficult, as you were saying, Sister Gloria, that the PTSD, it's real. It is a real thing, and again, social media just heightens it.
That's right. And it's on both sides. Again, like you understand, Montez, as a police officer, you're just doing your job, and you want to do a good job. You're here because you like what you do, hopefully, and you feeding your family doing it, right? And so you're not going out every day trying to hurt somebody. You want to be able to make sure that you're doing what you need to do for the community, right? But if anything escalates, my mind is going to go in a certain way. So that training that you are talking about is so needed, but in my opinion, it has to be something where you got to be able to know the community that you are servicing and protecting, because if you don't know, you're going to bring your biases in it, right? That police officer he let me show out as much as I can because he thought I was a small Black woman who couldn't do him no harm. That's the only reason why I made it, right? But if I look like any one of you guys, I for sure know I wouldn't have made it, because as soon as I took them handcuffs off, I probably would have been gone. True or false?
And I want to posit to the panel here is, what can we do not only, and this is not as well, this is a police officer speaking, but what can we do, but also as an African American, what can we do for each other, for our communities, to make sure that our young boys and our young girls, they understand what they need to do when they have encounters with law enforcement. Now, I know all of you said you had some good experiences. Some of y'all said y'all had bad experiences, but what can we do collectively? Because I really want to know this stuff, because again, like I said, I see the little kids. I got kindergartners and through fifth grade at my school. And I talk to the boys a lot, especially the African-American boys. Some of them come up to me and they're fine, but I can still see some of them have a hesitation. Some of them tell me, say, I can't talk to you because my mama said never talk to the police. You know, and I'm like, why would that be? I was like, do I look bad to you? Whatever. She's like, no, you just can't trust the police. That's what a 9-year-old, actually a 7-year-old is telling me. You know, so that's hurtful. And part of my job, well, at least while I'm at school, is what I try to do is try to change that mindset and show them I'm not a bad guy, that I am here to help you. Okay, you can trust me. All right, to make sure that you stay safe every day when you come to school, that I'm here to keep you safe. All right, and you could come to me with anything you want and I will help you. But just to the panel, what suggestions would you have that we could do to ensure that, you know, cross category, not only here in the South, but in the North, in the East and the West, that we could have this problem so we won't be seeing African-American, you know, men and women being hurt at the hands of police?
I'll start off.
Okay, go ahead.
So I did a crisis intervention training with a mental health organization that I'm also part of with the police. And I did one, and then that was it. And so they did a crisis intervention training, what was one off, and they checked the box off, because police are just like every job, they're busy. So they checked that box off, and then they got their training complete, or whatever the case may be. I use that example because I don't think the crisis is treated like a crisis of like, oh, we have to treat this more of like it's an epidemic, it's a pandemic, like how we treated COVID. Like we have to treat it that same way of like, hey, there's a real emergency with this community breakdown between law enforcement and this community, and we have to treat it like that. So I'll pose that one out there with the crisis intervention training. It may have different names in different cities and in different law enforcement towns. The other thing I'll add to that is I don't know where the disconnect came from, but from my knowledge, kids don't grow up wanting to be in law enforcement like you used to hear it back in the day. Like when I grew up, like I want to be a police officer when I grow up. I want to put the bad guys in jail. And so something happened, and I don't know what it happened on. Maybe social media, maybe whatever the case may be, but something happened where that disconnect with the law enforcement and the community got broken, and that trust got broken. And so I say that to say what Montez is doing needs to be duplicated with every Black male that's in that position, because there is a disassociation with police. And like when they see Montez, they will see him as a Black man before they see the police officer. And as soon as he says, I'm Montez, the police, it's like, all right, this trust going, like it's gone. It's over. Like you had me at just off of how you look, but then now I'm good now.
I'm looking at how y'all react to him here. Everybody's like so quiet. Nobody's saying anything. You know?
Nah, he's good. He's good.
Nah, we're talking about healing. Let me stay whole in my little balance here, because I don't want to come out myself in this little forum. But he cool though. Yep.
And I think we have to have more of Black male police. For one, I know they and I see it. I'm based out of Philadelphia. I see it. They're requesting like Black male and men join the police academy, but there is a disconnect where none of my friends, that's not a viable job for them. None of them will sign up for that. I already know. If I survey 100 random Black men within the city, they still gonna be like no. And I think it's because it doesn't look the way it looks. And I think more Black men who are in that space have to, and that's not even just an onus on them. The police academy has to empower the Black male that's on their force. Hey, give me an extra incentive to go out into my community to help it bridge this gap between us, because there is a disconnect. And I think those few things will be a start. And you can't fix it overnight, but that'll be a start of offering them incentives to go back out into their communities and say, hey, like, I want y'all to look at me as a Black male, not the shield that I bear.
David, what you think?
No, I totally agree. And to Brother Reginald's point, like really giving back to the community, not just when there is crisis. So the communities that the police officers are policing, like just going into businesses, into small businesses, really just checking up, going into schools, going into community center, just, hey, how you doing? We're not here for anything other than to serve you guys and to see how's everything. The challenge is media. So we're already depicted one way. There's no other way. So when there is crisis, everybody from kids all the way up to the elderly, they already have this prejudge. They prejudge. There's a prejudice already surrounded, and where it's fear, right? And there's an ignorance that's created because there is no language to the frustration. Like you can't put a language on a frustration. There isn't any conflict resolution. So a lot of the police officers who might have come from the inner city or not, you talking about males, how many of us were really conditioned on critical thinking and conflict resolution? We come up aggressive, especially in our community.
Come on.
You know, we don't know how to just sit down and agree to disagree. So now you put a badge and a gun to that, oh man, it causes a huge disconnect. But I would say really just go back into the community police. When I was in junior high school, the police officers, they would come to the community centers.
Yep.
And have programs with us.
Yep.
You know, and it was peaceful, right? They actually took like maybe 100 kids from the inner city to a camping trip. I remember going to a sleepaway camping trip. That was my first time with the police officers in that community, and it was a great experience. I think somewhere along the line of like, you know, I remember Sean Bell getting murdered and Amadou Diallo and a few others. Then it started to create this hardness in me when I would see the police officers, because then now they have tension. And it wasn't just law enforcement. Now the community we're going up against each other, right? So it's not even just the law enforcement and civilian. Now the civilians are like, hey, listen, you know, the police don't like us, we don't like us. And no one is willing to step in the gap and say, hey, listen, I'm gonna be the change agent for this. Because remember, we're not in the roll call. Civilians, we don't know what goes on a Monday through Sunday when the police officers get to the academy for their roll call of the day. You in a high crime area such as I live in the South Bronx. So I already know that precinct, like I see it, I feel the tension. You could be in a suit, tie, briefcase, it doesn't matter. If you have a certain hue, if you're from a certain cloth, they're looking at you in a certain way. But I would say really just us just having more of these forums, and like you said, like really just going back to the communities that you police and say, hey, listen, what is it that I can do? I know that we always just kind of, you see us one way, we see you one way, but what can I do? All it takes is one, just like on this healing journey. You step out on faith and you step in the gap, then you have other brothers and other sisters starting to you open up the floodgates.
And I tell you guys something. So Gerald, you might know Zane, a guy I went to high school with, is a police officer in New York, right? And it just so happens that he's in the neighborhood where my aunt lives. And before my cousin died, he will see him all the time. And he would just tell me, he would say, Gloria, I don't want to arrest him because I know you and I know your family, but I would need you guys to come get him or else I'm gonna have to take him. Gloria, he's doing the same thing again. You know, I know that he has epilepsy, but if I see him or his kids in the store, because we know what he's doing, right? I'm gonna have to take him in. I know he's a street pharmacist. That's how we gonna keep it, right? I know the kids are a street pharmacist, but he ain't going to do this here because this is where I work and this is what I have to protect. So I'm going to pull him to the side and let him know that I know you. And once I let him know that, if anything else happens, I'm going to have to do what I need to do. And see, for me, I appreciate that, because now I can say to my family, like, look, the police is here and this is what's going to happen. Now you have to make your own choice, right? We know you breaking the law. We know you're not doing what you're supposed to do. But what I appreciated was the fact that I had that grace only because I was in that community. And I guess, Montez, the way we feel is that you give each other grace. And the police force, you give each other grace, even when you know you're wrong. You hold lay back down and you say, I got you, even though you know, only because it happened with my brother-in-law. They gave him so much grace, where you're told to go grab the criminal. Well, when he was the criminal and when he was having a hard time, you gave him grace only because he had that shield and because of who he was and because you respected the community. But in this community, it doesn't translate. Does that make sense? It doesn't translate. And that's the problem. You know how to protect your own. So it seems that's what we see as the underlying thing. You protect your own at the risk of everyone else.
And that's what and you're 100% right. And I know with my department, what we have two things that we do. We have a citizens police academy. So we give citizens an opportunity to actually go through an academy, just basically a small microcosm of what we actually have to go through in like a 2-month period. And it gives them a lot of eye-opening, insight as far as how we train. You have to go through driving and shooting and laws and legals and all that stuff. So they could go back into their communities and say, hey, I went through what a police officer kind of has to go through. And y'all wouldn't believe this stuff. And I hear it all the time. They tell me that all the time. Like, I couldn't believe y'all have to deal with all this stuff. This is insane. But also too, what we also have that my chief, he's very proud of it. And we have a community-based organization called the Dignity Project. And it's a consortium of community leaders from different cross categories of the town, basically where I work. And you have, the African American community, you have, more affluent communities, you have just everybody kind of a cross category, and they have a very open, transparent discussion with the chief, and the chief is very, very transparent. So if there's a situation where an officer did something wrong, he will own it and he will say this officer did something wrong and this is how we took care of it. And they have a great dialogue, and it all kind of came out of George Floyd. George Floyd was kind of the precipice for a lot of this whole Dignity Project. And I will say also we've had policy changes as well because of George Floyd, where we have, and what you're kind of talking about is we can't even protect. We have to look out for the public. So a lot of times you see what's called a duty to intervene. We actually changed our policy to actually say that, where you see the officers who were just standing there during George Floyd's incident, who are just standing around, kind of twiddling their thumbs, looking around while he's kneeling on his neck, dying. Recently with the Tyree Nichols situation, you saw all the officers who were around there. Now they're coming charging the firefighters and the EMS people who, because they had a duty to intervene. They had a responsibility to intervene. So now we actually have a policy now that we all had to sign, and we have to understand it, that no matter if you're a sergeant, you're a lieutenant, or the chief, but if you see somebody doing something wrong that you know is illegal, you have a duty to step in and stop it. And if you're not, you're just as culpable and just as guilty with whatever happens, whether it's a criminal charge or it's loss of employment or whatever. So those are some of the steps that we're doing in our community to try to improve some of this stuff. But I know, just across America, it's tough.
That's right. It's tough.
It's tough.
And now I want to just shift the conversation a little bit, because, we talked about the traumas, right? We talked about, how society looks at us, right? And we talked about, the things that we have to battle personally. And then now when you bring someone else into it, a relationship, how do you start to define what love is when you're trying to get yourself in a position where you're healing and trying to grow and trying to manage everything that you're going through, right? How do you bring love into it? So my question for you guys, and I know the ladies have been waiting for this question, is what does self-love look like for you?
I'm thinking I'm biting at the bit on this one. To be
Come
honest,
on.
really, I was I was dating somebody, and not too long ago, and I was at the same time as I'm going through all the pressures with the cords and the daughter's mom and depression and anxiety, and I was trying to navigate that space, and I did so many things wrong. I did everything wrong, right? I was non-communicative. I was confusing. I messed it up.
Was
right?
it wrong or you did what you knew? Did you know you was doing it?
No, and
You
that's
only
the
did what you
difficult part.
knew. Mhm.
That's the difficult part, is when you're healing, you're going through a difficult time, is that you're possibly, and more times than not, hurting somebody else on the other end who's
Mhm.
trying to help you,
Yeah,
right? But you can't see that because you're in it,
yeah.
right? You are in it. And so this person actually was calling my healing fraudulent because just recently, I started to enjoy myself and go out into the world and dance and do things like that. But that was one of the most difficult things I could have heard, was that your healing is fraudulent when you know what you were just going through a couple months ago, and that person is hurt from what how
Yeah.
that all transpired between the two of you, but you couldn't see over the fence. Right? You couldn't see over the fence. You couldn't even see through the fence and navigate that space. And so it was a lot of apologies and I'm sorry's and things of that nature. But it is one of the truest things, is that hurt people hurt people.
Mhm.
And when you are in it, you are in it. And when it's time to look over the fence and you see all the carnage that you left because you're hurting, it is one of the most humbling and hurtful things at the same time. And so,
So are you saying you are still learning to love yourself, or are you figuring out what love is?
I'm doing both. I'm doing all of those things.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, I'm starting from L. I'm on L right now,
Gotcha.
and going through the rest of the letters. But it's difficult. And self-love for me, just to answer your question, is the sun.
Mm.
It's just being in the sun. And I say this a lot, is the sun is my best friend. It's saved me. It's probably saved my life in some moments where I could just open the door and just feel a little bit. But self-love for me is just being in the sun, being around my daughter, hearing my mom laugh and watching her dance, watching my niece and nephew evolve. But it's being around the people that I love and who love me. And I can't get any simpler and plainer than that, if you will.
And I would say this to you, because for a woman who will step in for you, find out what makes you happy within you, and let that start to be the love that you build out to everyone else, because your cup has to be full. When those people are not there, you say you're empty. So you have to be able to pour into yourself. And when you pour into yourself and you overflow, that's when you know you got the love. You understand? And I know for a man, it is your happiness is making sure that other people are happy, but is when you are happy that we're happy as a woman and everything. Like when you are in a good position, we will go to bat for you all day. And I know you guys experience that, right? So I would say that to to continue to look within and allow that cup to fill up. Because once that cup is full and it starts to spill over to everybody else, then you know you got it. Because it doesn't matter, because those people are going to get old and those people are going to expire, and you still got to have it. You see what I'm saying? How about you, David? Because you're married. Anybody else married? Oh, look at y'all. Okay, then y'all made it. Y'all made it.
Yeah, you know, full transparency. You know, my wife and I, we're fighting right now. You know, full transparency, and I mean not in a negative way, but in a holistic way to keep our union together. And I say that because when you don't know who you are and you get into a relationship and you're trying to hold the other person accountable and you don't know what self-love looks like, it's hard. You know, so at year 17 of us being together, going on 7 years of marriage, it's been a challenge. So
Who's
for
changing?
me,
You're changing or she's changing?
I would say that we're both growing in our purpose right now. Like we're growing apart. Yeah, we're growing apart in a healthy way in our purpose, because what she wants to do, I don't necessarily have an interest for, and what I'm doing, she doesn't necessarily have an interest for, but we're supporting each other.
I understand.
But what I've learned to do, Sister Gloria, and you know, and I know Brother G and a lot of our other brothers on the line, like really pouring into yourself on a daily basis, like really holding yourself accountable to your own joy.
Come on.
Right? Because we hear happiness all the time. Happiness comes with its ebbs and flows, but joy is the permanence that you create in all temperatures.
Say that.
So we want happiness, but it's really joy, because if it's raining, are you still joyful?
Right.
You know, if you're on the brink of separation or divorce, are you still joyful? Like it's really our own responsibility. So what I've done these last 4 to 5 years is really create a space, a safe space for myself. I no longer put the responsibility on my wife, my kids, my brothers. Like I know that I have to be whole in order for me to create other whole individuals and free other individuals up. So this work that, you know, my brother Gerald and I, Brother G and I have been on these last 2 years has been freeing, not only, you know, to ourselves, but to the individuals, to our tribe. Like we're stepping on stage for healing. We're at the crossroads of healing. So that self-love and that self-care is extremely important, really creating those routines, creating those habits, and understanding that it's a lonely journey.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's lonely. Like to be able to get in that dark room and go, hey, listen, you know what? It's me and you. It's me and you. I have to build a stronger foundation. So really just creating that consistency of joy within ourselves to be able to go out into the community. And that's why we have a lot of what we have, Sister Gloria, in terms of the violence. Self-love, that self-love piece is missing. And us Black males, we don't know how to communicate I love you, because we've been taught that masculinity is only in strength, it's only in suppressing our feelings, it's only in holding on to our ego and our pride. So to be able to cry to another brother, to be able to cry to a sister, to our sisters, to our children, or whoever, the community, and say, listen, nah, I'm not okay. You know, that is this strength, and I'm not okay. So that's the journey that I've been on, and I'm super excited. So for me, self-love is who I am now.
Yeah.
Because I've really neglected that for the majority of my life, but no longer. I'm here for the long haul.
Daquan.
Hey, Brotha.
Whoever's in the, I love that whoever's in the background. Self-love. I'm still trying to figure it out. We've been, you know, I shared that with the men, and when we have our initiatives and our events, I struggle with that. I'll start off with being very honest and transparent. I struggle with it because I have found my joy and sharing my, well, here's the thing is sharing my story isn't always peaches and cream. I'll say that too, right? Because sometimes it's a traumatic experience that I'm sharing with other people, right? I am getting healing from it. So I will say my joy has come out of being able to share
I
that.
want you to understand what your story does though, because I don't want you to feel like you can't share because you don't want to scare anyone or anything like that. You're helping other brothers come forward as to being comfortable with saying what happened to them, right? And we have to be able to normalize those things. You've been through some shit. We all have, right? Saying that you've been sexually abused is very hard to say as a man because immediately you feel like you're going to be demasculated. You feel like the other men are going to be looking at you as weak, right? But that's not true because in the back of their head back here, something happened to them too. So they listening to you. They probably won't respond. They probably won't say anything, right? But they listening to you. I've seen it time and time again. So never be afraid to say what you believe is going to shock them, because 9 times out of 10, it's not a shock. They're just shocked that somebody said it out loud, because they're walking around with the anger. They're walking around with all these things because they haven't stepped up like you did.
You know what? Be honest. So the reason why I appreciate you sharing that too, because most times I've learned through this journey and sharing our stories and through the resources that we provide, et cetera, along with other men that are a part of our initiatives, is that most times the men will come forward after. You know, you sometimes you may never get men to admit in those moments. It's always a joy though, which is thank you for leading me to this. It's always a joy of later on, men, you know, of looking at requested messages or DMs or emails saying, you know what, I saw your story, brother. I saw this other brother's story about being a survivor. You know what? Yeah, and one guy shared recently. He was like, I may never share my story. He said, I'm 60 something years old, but I can appreciate you for doing what you're doing. So I say it to say is not that I'm afraid, but I'm trying to find um my joy outside. Like my mentor always reminds me. I don't know if you got to meet Robert yet, which is over this initiative that we're doing. But he's like, I would say this, there's a joy of doing what I'm doing, but I'm also trying to find joy outside of that. You know, I
I
don't want to
get
be
that.
selfish. I know people are
I
like,
get
what
that.
you know, what does that mean?
Gerald
But
said
I'm
too,
really,
he's going out. He wants to dance. He wants to live
yeah,
life.
yo,
He wants to do
that's
all that. You
yo,
know,
I
we don't
love
have to
that, man.
bleed all day, right? We don't have to
See,
bleed all day. We can
see,
have
that's
fun.
why I was that's where I was getting to. I was stagnating. I was kind of like trying to get to that part because this is a part of me, but it's more now since I'm doing this, I'm realizing it's more now since I'm finding the joy in this, I'm trying to figure out what else is that Daquan loves to do. I was part of a production recently, and I can't share it yet, unfortunately, but I was part of production, which I realized that I've been in survival mode for a long time. And now I'm at a point when I'm starting to go after my dreams. And so I love what G was saying, like just going out to the sun, like that makes a big difference. Like right now, I'm a cheerful person, but I've been real like under the weather, a little irritated because you know I'm in Detroit, so we ain't getting no sun right now. You know what I'm saying? It's cold here. You know, like so ain't nothing to be happy about. Not just playing.
But I think, but
But
I think that again, just being your words and being
yeah.
able to step up, all of you guys, just makes it, you know, so powerful for other men to really step up. And as you guys said, they might not do it in a forum like this, but they will come to you personally, right? They will say, you know, you help them, right? And so that's the point of us having this conversation, because as women, we want to know how to love you. We want to be there for you. We want to know how to love you. We want to know what can we do to be that woman that you need in order for us to grow together, right? And trying to figure that out, if we always got to get pushed up against a brick wall, eventually we're going to get tired of the bruises and say, you know what? I don't think this is for me. Because as much as I'm trying to pound through this brick wall, you just put more bricks up for me. The wall just
Sister
keeps
Gloria, I gotta say
getting
this.
higher.
I gotta say this real quick. Now, this is why I'm making sure I'm putting my work in concerning me. Like, I'm not dating right now. I would love to have a wife and kids. It's been heavy on me recently. I ain't in a rush. I ain't in a rush. Let me clarify that. I appreciate, marriage and its union and kids and children, but I'm turning 31 this year, so I'm just not figuring out life. So I want to speak to the men too, like that's in this place right now where they're like, what do I? I'm just getting to this point, trying to figure out life. Um, um, I want to just say, like, you have to put the work in. I was just talking to one of my friends, and he knows he's always one of the ones that's want to jump into relationships, etc. But I was telling him, he was telling me that last woman he was with, was always fussing at him and all this other stuff he was saying. And I was telling him, you have to do your part with making sure you're looking for help. It's so important for men. I can speak to the man. It's so important that you do your part in looking for healing and community and figuring out who you are before you get into that next relationship. There's plenty of women I would love to date right now. Not saying that you can't date while you're
Don't be
healing.
soliciting on my platform.
I don't mean like,
y'all hear it, right?
I
And there's
mean,
a
I
lot of
mean,
women I would love to date
I mean,
right
what
now.
let me clarify. I don't know if
Put your number in the chat. Put your
I
number in
know
the
it.
chat.
I know it. So listen,
No, I'll say
you
that I
shoot
have
me
reached
this
out to
shot
me,
right
or
now.
I'll just I gotta make sure that I share it with a few people. I'll say this. What I've been to say is that I had a privilege or could have in times past to date, right? But I feel like I'm just starting to love myself, starting to figure out what self-love is, and I feel like I got tired of bleeding all over people. I
Yeah.
got tired of kind of being stagnant and going in those continuous cycles. So I'm doing my part to heal and to do what we're doing concerning the survivor circle and I am in to make sure that I'm healed first and that I continue the journey of healing before I jump in the next relationship. So I feel like speaking to the man, it's not always, don't put so much pressure on the women. You know what I'm saying? Like, you gotta just do our parts. That's how I feel right now. So
Reginald, because Daquan done shot his shot and told you he's a good man and he's a Pisces and all that.
I'm a Taurus.
Look at that.
So
All
going
right.
off of Daquan's point, I've been married. I'm 31, so I've been married for 2 years, but I've been in my relationship since 2011. But I've known her since middle school, so we've known each other about 20 years. So I've been in a committed relationship for
I
a
know.
long time. And
that's
and I
dope.
know the question was about self-love, so I'm gonna get to it. Wait, you say you can't hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
You good?
Okay. And I know the question is about self-love, but I'm just giving that background for the context. And I always say that I'm lucky because we shared a lot of things in this conversation today that I see my friends go through as far as baby mama drama and stuff like that, where they're good guys, but they can be looked at as deadbeats because of the circumstances that they're in. And G talked about that. And then the other lucky part of that is what David was talking about, where we were growing and we didn't know where we were growing. We just were growing. Like we got together at 19. We figuring life out. We don't know each other. We don't know ourselves. We don't know anything. And I want to say, and if she was able to, I don't want to speak for her, but I'll speak for our relationship on my behalf. One of the changes that shifted our relationship is when I started to develop self-love.
Mm.
And I started to learn who I was when no one was around, who I was when I didn't have to show up in a role, like as a dad or as a partner or as a panelist or whatever role that I needed to show up. Who are you? And I'm still wondering that question because now, to Daquan's point, I've been showing up as my contribution to society. So my story, my services. I'm a mental health advocate. I'm this, I'm that, and it's like, who am I if I'm stripped of everything? We talk about the cup full and going over, like we don't even know what the bottle made of. You know what I mean? So we can't even get to all of the different contents that's supposed to be in there before we get to what the bottle was made of. And so I'm figuring out what this label was supposed to be written on this label, what cap go on, what before I even can get to the water part, I got to get to all of these other different things. And again, I'm gonna keep saying I don't know them. And it's a constant quest of who are you, whatever you're supposed to be, and how you're supposed to live with yourself when no one's around, when no obligations, when you're just sitting with you, and it's just you that got to show up for you. Who are you? And I think that is self-love, when you can constantly answer that question every day of who are you, and how you can be you when no one's around.
Montez.
Jeez.
Yes, that's some good stuff there, brother. That's gold.
Brother Reginald,
Oh,
man,
look,
you
we gonna
got
do
it.
surface
Yeah.
stuff. Look.
I don't know if I can even try to follow that up, but yeah, I've been with my wife about 19 years.
Okay.
We met at the police department, ironically, and we've been married about 15 now. So it's tough. It's been tough, but it's one of those roads that I'm thankful I went on, because she's made me a better person. And there were times that, that I couldn't go here, go there, do things like that. And I feel like now we're in a different season in our relationship, in our lives, because our children are getting older. We have a daughter in college. Our son will be going to high school next year. I'm transitioning into toward the end of my career. She's kind of getting in the prime of her career. So we got a lot of life changes that will be happening, I would say, the next 2 to 3 years. So it's going to be a challenge for both of us to find happiness, to find peace. But what gives me happiness, and we all say, and like you said, Sister Gloria, is just from a male perspective and from a husband's perspective, because again, I try to put God first in what I do. We put our marriage, God, we've prayed a lot together. We prayed probably more together in the last year and a half than we've had in all our relationship. Just because of the trials and tribulations that we've both been going through, personally, professionally, different things like that. And what I found is that me being, who I am, obviously you see the flags and you see this and stuff. There's no secret that I would like to be president of the United States. There's no secret that my next career is to go it's not a secret. If y'all look on my Instagram or look on my Facebook, that's all you see that's it. And it's going to be a challenge trying to get into that role, because bringing my family into that public eye, under that scrutiny is going to be challenging for them. And I pray that it won't be too bad, but that's what gives me joy. It gives me joy to help others out. I know it's cliche-ish. I know it's kind of one of those things, but I really, really do find joy when I can, when she's happy. She just came from vacation a couple of days ago, and I will tell you, there's probably, the old me, probably 10 years ago, I would have been flipping out the fact that she left the country, left me by myself, and I'm trying to figure out everything she's doing, and this and that and the other. But through prayer and growth, that I had to say, this is how she finds her happiness. This is how she finds her peace. And when she's peaceful, that peace comes in our household and comes to me. So I have to step back and let her be herself, let her be her own person, and grow as a person. And she's done the same for me, because I'm in a lot of organizations. I'm in the Freemasons, I'm in the Shriners. I do a lot of stuff like that outside of home. So I got meetings I got to go to, and this and that and the other, and I got stuff happening on the weekend. I do photography as well. That's kind of my outlet, is photography. And sometimes we butt heads about that. Like, oh, well, you're going to go shoot this game, but we got this going on at home you got to take care of too. So it's challenging. It's tough. And
the tough part is because you're a man with a dream, and you're asking her to follow you. And whatever it is that you want, she's thinking, well, what I want, I'm going to have to put here because this is what he wants, because he has a dream for our family. And even though I might have a dream, I have to follow what Montez wants because that's what we do as women, right? When you got a man who has a dream, we really put our dream on the back burner so we can follow you because you are the man. We want to make sure that we are the push that you need, right? But you got to be able to be going somewhere now. We got to know where we going. We can't be just walking around, right? Because eventually I'm going to get tired. But if it's challenging, it's because she's trying to figure out where you're going, how we going to get there, and she's going to support you and all of you guys. And from a woman's perspective, the only reason why we act out is because we need that communication and we feel that we're not getting it. And you're saying, I'm giving you all I have. There's nothing that I everything that you keep saying, I already talked. I already said this. You should know me by now. You already know this is how I am. Well, the only thing that we're asking for is, how can I help? So the communication is more like, you know what, I don't need your help right now. Is a lot of stuff with me. So probably what I need to do is I need to go by myself for a while. And it has nothing to do with you. I'll come back when I can. Of course, our insecurities are going to get into play, but we all on this healing journey. If you with someone who understands that, they will go ahead and let you go because we hoping you come back better so that we can have a good and healthy relationship, because we do want to push you. We do want to love you. We want all the things. We want that protection and security and everything. And you guys know that. The first thing is we want to hug you. We want to kiss you. We want to protect you. We want to feed you if they can cook, right? And we want to do a lot of stuff. And so we are trying to figure out what it is that you need. And what I heard from tonight, because I know we got to wrap up, because I know we had you guys here for a long time. What I heard from tonight is, with all of the things that you guys go through as men, what you're looking for is just that breathing room to allow you to figure this whole thing called life out. And if you can get that breathing room to deal with all the things that you're dealing with and to deal with yourself, then you can come back and communicate. Then you can come and answer some questions, because most of us women don't want to do that because we got diarrhea of the mouth all day. We talk to each other, right? So we want to know, why you're not talking to me? Why are we not doing this? Why is it this way? Why is it that? And it's only because we get that community, right? We get that community. So I just want to say, guys, just really quick, if anybody has anything to say to that man that is out there who either want to start his journey or getting on his journey, what would you say to him? Let us know how to follow you, resources, anything that you have, and we can go ahead and wrap this up. But I will tell you, I love each and every one of y'all, and I thank you for this wonderful conversation, for real. So I'm going to let the Kingdom Brothers go because they're a duo. And then it could be you, Reginald, then Montez, and then we'll end with you, Daquan, okay?
Brother Day.
Follow the king at the Kingdom Bros. No, but in all seriousness, definitely follow at the Kingdom Bros. Follow all of our brothers here. Just make the decision to make the decision and understand that your healing journey is your journey in of itself. You can't look outside of you for anyone to champion you on this healing journey. You have to get to the point where you develop the muscle and the wherewithal and the fortitude to say, listen, I don't have it all put together, but these are the building blocks that I'm going to do. And really just understand every day you have to do something for the mind and the body. You know, sound mind, sound body, it creates a divinity. Listen, it's okay. We've all been through traumas, but there are resources You've witnessed it here. We are starting to change the narrative of what healing looks like, what it feels like, so on and so forth. Really get connected with a community of not even just brothers, but just sisters as well. Sister Gloria has her sisters that are very empowered and in tune with their own healing and doing the same work. So even if you feel like, hey, listen, the brothers have too much machismo and the sisters are gonna be, just get with someone. But definitely you'll be able to find myself as a second part of the Kingdom Brothers on the Kingdom Bros Instagram page, or my brother G has created. And I'll let my brother G kind of just, sign out on that part. But definitely just get connected with a community. And I love y'all.
Yeah, I think the one thing that we all have come to grips with here is that we're never going to be 100%.
Yep.
And we talk about it on the Kingdom Bros, that we're on a journey to 99%. We understand that we are not going to be perfect, that we're going to mess up more than we don't. But I would say it is totally necessary. It is totally necessary. And you're going to get to the point where your healing becomes the forefront. Before, when you start, it's the back end, it's the back end. Oh, I do a little therapy on the weekends or whatever. But now when you get to that point where your healing is on the forefront, people are going to start to see it. And we talk about this all the time. I'm sure, brothers, you can definitely speak to that, is that people will see it and smell it. They will understand that you are on a different mission. And that mission is to be 99%, not 100. But it is totally necessary as a Black man, as a person in this world, for sure.
Mm-hmm. Thank you guys so much. And thank you guys for being here. Reginald?
You can follow me at my name, Reginald A. Howard, on all platforms, Instagram. Just type in Reginald A. Howard, I'll pop up. Follow the organization, Black Men Hill, Senior Program Coordinator. Y'all can get the free support groups. We offer free therapy in 9 different states. So if we in your state, sign up and get that free therapy. And join the groups every Sunday night, if you can. And then the last thing I'll add to that is there's a movement in the mental health community called it just says Be Here Tomorrow. So if you hashtag Be Here Tomorrow, it's a whole community of people that's saying Be Here Tomorrow. And the reason of that is sometimes life gets so big and so overwhelming that we're trying to eat too much at one time or take in too much. So just focus on that single day. I read a book said 1% better. And if at the end of the year, that 1% is 365%. And that's anybody in the accounting and mathematics, they already know that amount of growth. So be here tomorrow, focus on that 1%, and you'll be blessed, man. So thank you. And thank you for having me. I appreciate that, Sister Gloria.
Absolutely. Montez?
First of all, thank you all for being here. Listen, I at the get-go, I said, I'm here to learn. And 2 hours went by and I'm a better person now because of all of you. So thank you. Thank you for that. Thank you, Sister Gloria, for having me as well. And just to outtake, I know I'm coming from probably different perspective, probably from all of y'all. But please, what I implore, not only for your viewers, for people who are watching this, educate yourself. We as people, we need to keep learning, keep educating. Educate brothers, educate yourself about whatever. If there's a problem in your life, educate. We have Google, we have social media, we have all these things that we can do. Educate yourself. If you need to go down, if you're afraid of interaction with the police, go down to the police department and say, hey, can I just talk to a police officer and just learn a little bit about what you do? All right.
That ain't realistic, but okay.
Let's try it, but educate yourself, educate your children. If you have children or you are a mentor or a father figure for somebody else, educate the children. Just keep educating, keep learning. Don't ever stop learning. And hopefully we'll come to an understanding about loving, appreciation, and just being a good human here on earth. God bless you all, and thanks again.
All right, thank you. And now the Mr. Lover, the smooth man
Oh God,
that's looking for somebody.
I should have worded that so much different.
It's okay.
Last but not least.
I wanted, you said that wasn't realistic.
Look, you changed your clothes and everything. Didn't he change his clothes?
Oh no, I just came in the living room because it was just like I need some space. Like I've been in the house all day. I had to just get out my room. Sister Gloria, you are funny. I just want to say I'm appreciative. I actually was following Gerald and Davis movement and also Reg from another friend of mine that told me, and I would just watch it from afar. And I think I followed um G's and Davis movement today. So I'm just appreciative. I can't wait to be to support you guys. I'm always trying to support other brothers, especially brothers
Hey,
look like me, these
thank
black
you.
men. So let me know what I can do to support. Let me know where y'all located. I'm all for it. Before I get to my movement, Montez, I want to just say what the Gloria said was true. I want to just share a little bit. Sometimes things aren't realistic as we would like it to be. So you have to continue to do your part on those initiatives that you have, because most men, because of what we talked about earlier and the traumatic experience that we went through, most people aren't going to take that initiative, especially because of the trauma that we went through within the police force and and being black men and women. They're not going to take that initiative. So you have to keep doing what you're doing in your part
And
and
get to
building
the
that
president
foundation.
of the United States. Just get up there and
Yeah,
and
yeah,
and
yes.
continue to push and change. For
Yeah,
real.
so you guys can follow me. My name is Quan White. That's on all platforms. We have our initiative, the Survivor Circle, which is on Facebook, and also now we're on Instagram. And I talked about being a survivor just a little bit earlier, but I'm a survivor of sexual abuse. We have our different events that we just started, so I would love to connect with you guys, possibly have you on my panel. Even if you're not knowing or about being a survivor, we talk about the mental health, just the experience of what men go through in general. So I love to connect with you guys later. So connect with us on that. You do not have to be a survivor. You actually can be an advocate too if you're trying to learn, if you have any friends or family that are survivors, all men are welcome. So follow me on that, and I'm just appreciative of being on here with you guys.
All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for being here. I really do appreciate it. And ladies, this wraps it up. This is
Sister
our brother,
Glory.
y'all all right.
We appreciate you, Sister
Thank
Gloria.
you.
Love you,
Thank
and I
you.
love you, brothers.
We
Absolutely.
We're
really
definitely going
appreciate
to
you.
connect, and the feeling is mutual. The feeling is
Absolutely.
definitely mutual.
All right. Good night, guys. I'm gonna
Have a
do
great
a
night.
little wrap up with the ladies.
All right, brothers.
All right. Y'all be safe.
All
Bye,
right.
wow. Take care, bro.
All right, ladies. So we did it. We did it. And what you saw is us having that conversation that we needed to have. And I just wanted to let you ladies know, thank you for standing in the gap for these men. Thank you for everything that you have done to be in the space. I really do appreciate all of you ladies. This is something that we are going to continue to talk about here in the I'm Loving Me project. And the reason why we're doing this, guys, is because this is how we heal, right? I told you guys, this is how we heal. You got to be able to know both sides. We are doing our work as women. We are putting in the work. We are choosing ourselves. We are making sure that our families are okay. But when we see our men, how much they hold stuff in, how much they're trying to deal with society, the roles that they have to play, just like us. But see, we have a community, and they don't necessarily have a community to where they can have that outlet. But I'm so grateful and thankful that you guys tuned in tonight to stand in the gap for them, because I knew it was hard for some of them, but I'm so grateful that they did it. And I'm so grateful that you guys stuck around to support them. Please like and follow them. We'll make sure that we put their links in there. Make sure that you are on our email list, because we're going to be doing a whole bunch of stuff. We're going to be doing live events. We're going to be having courses. We're going to be having places where you can get coaching and everything. Ladies, I told you this is real. Healing is real. Getting yourself to go to the next level is real. And I just can't wait for the things that are to come. So I know I'm going to bed, but I'm going to bed full. And I thank all of you ladies for just hanging in there and sticking it out. Comments, questions, everything. Leave them in the chat, share, like, all of that good stuff. I love y'all. All right. Bye.